Welcome to all of you. The discussion today is in preparation for the 4th Sunday of Lent, 26 March. And the text we are going to focus on is John 9, verse 1 to 41. This is all part of preparation for Lent. Let me just maybe read the other 3 texts. We know in the RCL, not everybody uses it in that way, but we are supposed to read 4 texts. And the others here, the Old Testament text is 1 Samuel 16, 1 to 13. The Psalm is Psalm 23. The epistle text is Ephesians 5, 8 to 14, and then the gospel text is what we mentioned, John 9. And let me say again, the connection to Lent is again, we saw it with the previous one also, preparation for the Holy Week and especially thinking about the baptism, which was the annual baptism of people who came to faith, happened after the Holy Week. And in these 4 texts we have the concepts of oil and light, which kind of were symbols that were part of the baptism in the beginning. Every person that was baptized got a candle, and there were anointings and so on that happened there. Quickly, let's let the team introduce themselves.
My name is Tony Robinson. I'm with Stellenbosch United Church, and I'm a minister in the United Presbyterian Church in South Africa.
I'm Bruce Theron with the United Congregational Church and Congregation in Kuils River, and I'm currently also the Program Manager of Ecclesia, based in Stellenbosch.
My name is Daniel de Wet. I'm a minister at the Dutch Reformed Church Stellenbosch West, Stellenbosch West NG Kerk, so net hier naby.
My name is Lolly van Deventer. I'm a postgraduate student at University of Stellenbosch, and I'm also in Joshua Generation Church.
Okay. Are you from Swellendam?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
My name is Koenie Burger, Dutch Reformed Church, at the moment Director of Ecclesia. Okay, Lolly, you are the exegete. I think we start with you. What's going on in John 9?
Good. So the first thing, once again, just to reiterate what we said last time about the piece in the text, John 4, just to look back at the prologue once again. The reason why Jesus came, He was the Word that became flesh, that revealed God to humanity. There were those who accepted Him and those who rejected Him, and that had a certain identity implication upon those. And I think as well, if we look at the reason why the Gospel of John was written, in John 20 verse 31, it says that this was written so that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ and the Son of God, and that you might have life in His name. And I think in this section, John 9, we are looking at someone who's believing and who is receiving life, but there is resistance to this life that he is experiencing. And if we look at the start of the pericope, it follows Jesus really aggravating some Jewish leaders and almost being stoned. They pick up stones to stone Him, and He gets away. And I think that's the first thing that stands out for me of this text. The fact that Jesus is basically almost running for His life. We don't know how dramatic it was, but He's in His own moment of anxiety. And what He does is He walks past this man who's blind, and He sees this man. And I think that's the first thing that just popped up for me. The fact that He, out of His own moment of anguish or anxiety, He sees this other person's distress. And obviously we know in ancient Palestine, your physical ability, your physical body represented something of your identity. This man being blind, being deformed, represented something of someone who was impure, of a lesser status. And also, this was a man, and we spoke last week about the public sphere and the private sphere. The public sphere was the space where men showed their honor and bettered their honor. And this man is sitting in the public sphere and he's begging, he's dishonoring himself, shaming himself, and that's what he's done from the beginning. And Jesus just seeing him, and then obviously this question, we know where the disciples asked, but who sinned? Is it his parents or himself? And it's not an unreasonable question if we look at the context. Even Jesus in John 5, when he heals the man, he says, well, go now and don't sin so that something worse might not happen. So it was a common way of thinking, but once again Jesus challenges this in his disciples and saying it's not because of sin, but so that God might be revealed, so that the work of God might be done. And Jesus heals this man, and important is he touches him. If we look at physicians in ancient Palestine or the first century Mediterranean world, they did not necessarily touch their patients because you were impure. So Jesus just coming and taking his own spit once again and touching this man and healing him, and then sending him to go and wash, and this man obviously gets healed. And then the resistance starts to this man's healing. Obviously Jesus healed on the Sabbath, which was against the interpretation of the law. And the Jewish leaders or the Pharisees, they start interrogating this man. Or first the neighbors speak about, is it this man, is it not this man, and take him to the Pharisees, and they start interrogating this man. And the only thing he has is his testimony, and I love that. He's just reiterating what happened.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who Jesus is, but he knows what happened. And then this whole argument around Jesus' identity, which is a thread through the gospel.
Yeah.
Once again, Jesus' identity divides people. And it says that they were divided, so maybe some did believe and some didn't believe. And after this interrogation, they cast him out of the synagogue, which was very real for the Johannine community, the people to whom this gospel was written. They were also kicked out of the synagogues for professing the name of Jesus, and this is a really existential thing for them, I think. And he was kicked out of the synagogue. Also, his parents feared this being kicked out, because it wouldn't just be kicking out of the religious system, but also almost kicking out of the covering that they had from the empire. The empire still recognizing the synagogue, and then being kicked out makes them vulnerable. Economically, socially, culturally, in all those aspects. So really makes them an outcast. And this is what this man becomes. And then Jesus appears on the scene again. And as we saw with the Samaritan woman, he recognizes, after Jesus says this, I am the Son of Man. And he recognizes and he believes and he worships Jesus. And then we get the last bit where the Pharisees overhear this. And they say, but Jesus says that I came for this judgment, so that almost those who say that they aren't blind, so that those who are blind can see, but those who say they aren't blind, they almost become blind. This is the whole irony of this whole thing. The Pharisees who say, but we can see, we know God. They are being made blind. And this man who knows that he doesn't have anything, he didn't see, he didn't know, he knows, and it's personal knowing. So I think that's the thrust of the passage here.
Thank you. Comments?
I find it very telling what Lolly started off by talking about the culture at the time where outward appearance is believed to reflect what is maybe wrong inside of you. We seem to do the same. I think the other texts are blending so well. When Saul goes out to look for a successor, he looks at the outward appearance, and he doesn't see the one that he was supposed to see as the ideal person. He's not big enough and not strong enough. And we continue to do that. I mean, I find it incredulous that they would not believe the healing. And you said that they thought it was another man that was healed. It can't be true. I mean, you come so close to seeing the Messiah, experiencing the Messiah, and yet you are doubting. It's just so incredible, so near and yet so far.
I also felt when I read it that this is a strong theme in this passage. You almost also remember last time the whole thing about recognizing Jesus. You know, that you think if you see him, you know who he is. But even for people who saw him, often didn't recognize him. And here, this is a very important thing. Playing on the blind and being able to see. I mean, the irony is here that people who could see didn't recognize Jesus, but the blind man recognized him. And I think we should be reminded here. I often have a feeling we're not talking enough about this. That in the New Testament, I would say faith, the way faith is defined, often has to do with the ability to see well, or to see correctly. And believers are people who see stuff that other people sometimes don't see. And especially our eyes being opened for Jesus, for who He is. I also kind of noticed that how the interesting theological questions are almost, you know, not evaded, but they are brushed off the table here. Because what we, if I can put it this way, this is what I hear here, what we need is not theological answers. What we need is meeting God in Jesus. This is what it is about, and this is what is changing this man's life.
Just
Sorry, Donnie.
Just a chapter or two before. Sorry, I've got to take you back to the Hebrew scriptures.
Okay, great. Old Testament theology, yeah.
Just a chapter or two before, Jesus is again coming out of a feast, and the feast is the Feast of Booths, or Sukkot. And in the Feast of Booths in the temple, they would light these huge candelabra, which would light up the whole city, or a fair amount of the city of Jerusalem. And so for Jesus, which He does for the second time, twice in the previous chapter, say, I'm the light of the world, in the context of a feast where these lights are lit up. And in the context of people considering the journey through the wilderness, then to use this whole idea of sight and see, which if you go back to the first mention of see in the Bible, and God looked, and God saw it was good, and God sees goodness, and goodness becomes associated with sight, and sin and evil associated with blindness. So in this whole context for Jesus to come along and then make a man see, not just by touching him, but by taking the very thing from which humans are made, the earth, and mix it, and then touch the eye of the human, taking people back to creation images, which would just, in the light of Jesus just having said, before Abram was, I am, would just blow the mind of a Jewish person in the midst of it, in terms of Jesus' claims of Messiahship. So it just drives it into stark contrast to believing versus unbelieving. What exactly do the believing believe? Well, they believe Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. And those who do not believe, well, they're just blind. They have no clue. And they're the sinners.
Thank you.
For me, I love the Gospel of John, and I think just the way how the story moves, and what stood out now is the different reaction from the people that witnessed this. First, the disciples, for them it was, as you said, a theological question, what's happening here? And the neighbors, they don't really know what to make of it. The Pharisees, for them it's almost a technical point on the law, and because it challenges their own position of power. And then, but most fascinating for me almost is the parents. For them it's a social problem. They don't really want to answer the question. And they say, no, let him speak for himself, he's old enough. And just the reaction, and all of them are blind all the time to what Jesus just did.
You remind me now, again, in the previous session I mentioned, I quickly looked at Raymond Brown, and he says that with these two texts, both are these this encounter of Jesus with an individual, helping them to come to faith. With the difference, he says, with the Samaritan woman, it's kind of she struggled to get it. She struggled to see who he really is. Whilst with the blind man, it seems like he early on realized he's got to do with God in a way. But then, and this is the reality sometimes of our life with Jesus, he encounters opposition. We here don't know much about that, but if you go back to the New Testament, I mean, that is a reality. Really believing in Jesus, especially if you try to be his disciple and start following, can cause trouble for you. We are reminded here in this passage that that can happen to us. Can we move to as we said, the gospel is not only for individuals, it is for congregations and for communities. Do Do you hear anything here that might have implications for our congregations or communities?
What to me speaks very clearly is to not exclude. If you were to type in the word exclude in a word processor and look for synonyms, there will be more words to describe exclude than embrace and welcome. I'm saying that because it's as if we need to make a specific attempt, definite attempt at inclusion. The Jews wanted to exclude. Jesus includes. I lacked in the story praise, happiness, joy that you can see. And it's not there. It says to me also today that the church, we as congregations, we can't dispel and reject people and keep them out. We need to embrace, we need to welcome, we need to be hospitable, we need to show hospitality. They must come and experience God's love in our midst. And on any grounds, we cannot reject people.
You make me think now here the distinction is between the blind and those that can see. But there's a similar text where Jesus refers to, speaks about the healthy and the sick. And then says, I didn't come for the healthy, I came for those who are sick and ill. And often I hear you saying in our congregations we must have more of that. There's a way that it is not that Jesus, you know, really didn't come for the healthy. The healthy also needed more than the think. But he had a focus on the sick and those that we would easily exclude maybe, or not notice. And it should be a reminder for our congregations to see those people, reach out to them.
For me, I'm hesitant to say this, but in terms of preaching within the denomination that I belong to, I think there's a challenge for us to also recognize that sometimes we tend to react as the disciples or the Pharisees even, more to theological what's happening here now, or no, there's a challenge to the system. And God works in ways which we don't understand many times. And so the work of the Spirit nowadays not always to challenge and say, but how can we on a theological level discern what's happened just here, but to embrace the miracles of Jesus that he still does.
Yeah, I think on that as well, within our churches, just the power of testimony, it's something that we cannot underestimate. I think preaching is obviously very, very important, but the way that we handle testimonies that come through the people within the church, I think that's also an important thing. And this man, all he had was his testimony, and it has amazing transformative potential. So for us within churches to listen and hear the testimonies of ordinary people.
And now, I mean, that was what he had. I think I read in Afrikaans that he said at some point, said, but didn't you hear what I said the first time? Yeah. Thank you. Last round, if we have to give advice to preachers, what will you focus on? Any more thoughts? Ideas?
I think if I could add something, just to be open to really examine yourself, and because we could easily identify ourselves with all the people surrounding the man, but really just to be open to God's work in our lives and say, but don't be too sensitive, because now God might show me something new, open my eyes in a new way as well.
And I think that there's a sense in which our churches, our congregations are a microcosm of what the world is like out there. So it's easy, in a sense, it's easy for us to preach about the world out there and talk about inclusivity and in various ways. But in our churches, so often the people's experience of things, we tend to judge. So people may have different ways of expressing themselves in worship, for instance. In a sense, my dream is to have a church which would include a Pentecostalist and a traditionalist in the same pew, both celebrating of each other's worship experience. So and that for me would be inclusivity within our church. And to some extent, that's where I'm at. I'm trying to say to you, in our congregations, let's look at it the way we experience the miracle of God's work in our life. And let's accept and celebrate each other's expression of that, whatever it is. Because so often the traditional organ playing, hymn singing church would judge the younger people for the way they worship and have experienced God and experienced the miracle of salvation in their lives. And to me, that's a real lesson of how we, in our own congregation, might look at inclusivity. Yeah.
And we didn't speak much about the, you can say, the gospel here of Jesus as the light of the world. I mean, this is maybe the solution for our blindness. We're not called to try to correct it ourselves. God sent us the light. Yeah. And if we can see the light, I always think it's a double thing here. You must first see the light. And then in the light of Jesus, the light that shines from Him, we can understand ourselves. We can see what's going on in the world and understand life and make more sense of it. And this is what Jesus can do for us. Thank you.
Thank you.